Vampires are the sweethearts of the horror community. Seriously though, their lore and mystique have birthed innumerable works, ranging from movies, TV shows, novels, comics, fanfiction, and even documentaries. Every culture around the world has a vampire myth, and these creatures of the night are rarely considered to be amicable. From Bram Stoker's immortal, literally and figuratively, Dracula, to Hollywood's beloved Underworld and Twilight franchises, and Netflix's Castlevania, vampires are everywhere. In addition to their infamous reputation for being immortal bloodsuckers, in many media, they are shown to have supernatural powers ranging from telepathy to shapeshifting, and everything in between. Many creators obviously use their discretion when it comes to assigning powers and weaknesses to these creatures, but considering their collective lore, we have gathered a few powers that seem to be more or less universal among all vampires. Keep watching to know more. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. How do vampires possess superhuman strength and speed? Well, vampire physiology needs to be studied to exactly understand how they possess superhuman strength and can move at speeds often invisible to the human eye. Until someone manages to get hold of a live vampire for experimentation, we can only rely on the mythology that is available. Vampires possess these qualities innately simply because they are vampires. While they make a significant gamble by giving up their humanity and the ability to walk under the sun, they receive powers beyond the comprehension of human minds. Unnatural strength and speed are two characteristics that vampires are shown to possess across almost all cultures. This serves a purpose more practical than just being a flex, of course. Vampires are predators, and all predators have skills that allow them to hunt their prey more effectively. The superior strength and incredible speed of vampires are some of the factors that make them expert hunters, as well as difficult to apprehend. Can vampires heal rapidly or even regenerate? Another attribute of vampires common to almost every culture is their near immortality. They become resistant to mortal woes such as aging and illness, and sometimes even poison. Usually, they remain youthful and strikingly enchanting, and stay that way for hundreds of years, unless they are killed. They are also said to possess miraculous healing abilities that allow them to regenerate body parts and/or heal any part of themselves if attacked. Some fans explain that this happens because vampirism changes the DNA of normal humans on a cellular level, which makes them prone to certain weaknesses but enhances other abilities and senses. In what ways do vampires exhibit hypnotic or mind control powers? Hypnotism and even telepathy are skills often depicted in vampires. In the most basic sense, these act as instruments that allow them to feed on innocent, unsuspecting humans. Fellow vampires might not always be affected by these powers, especially if they can hypnotize others as well. Unlike humans, vampires do not need pendulums to hypnotize their prey. Instead, they use their otherworldly allure, voices, and eyes to lead their prey to a trance-like state, which allows them easier access to blood. Using hypnotism, vampires can often make others do their bidding, so even if it is not technically telepathy, it is close. In some works, certain vampires have special gifts in addition to having the powers common to all vampires. Direct telepathy is often one of these gifts. Are vampires able to shapeshift, and into what forms? Vampires are not inherently well known as shapeshifters, but in many works they possess this ability. The most common transformation is that of a bat, as these nocturnal animals are often included in vampire myths around the world. Vampires can turn into regular-sized bats or giant demon-like ones. They can also turn their bodies into a mist-like haze, a rat, or a large wolf. Werewolves and vampires are mostly sworn enemies, so it's a little strange that the latter can turn into wolves, but hey, that's what the stories say. Do vampires have enhanced senses beyond human limits? Vampires have senses that exceed the human senses of sight, smell, hearing, touch, taste, and even the fabled sixth sense. They possess remarkable vision that allows them to see even in the darkness of the night and hear the softest of sounds. They can smell blood from very far away and can also deduce the age, race, gender, blood type, health status, and eating habits from very little blood. They can sense impending danger in a way that normal humans cannot, which allows them to hone their predatory and defensive skills. How do vampires defy death and achieve immortality? Cheating death is the prime allure of vampirism. Death is a natural earthly process, and defying it brings with it immortality and great power, but at some cost. Vampires are already dead, so they cannot die through natural means like disease or old age. They are often completely immune to conventional weapons as well. In many folklores, dead people can reanimate as vampires. In others, normal humans can be turned into vampires, but in the process, they die first and then become vampires, which technically makes them dead anyway. As mentioned before, they can live for generations unless they are killed using special methods, or they kill themselves. Can vampires survive without a reflection or shadow? Since they are dead creatures, vampires do not cast shadows or reflections, which is considered an innate quality of the living. This is often used as a method to identify and separate vampires from humans. What is the truth behind vampires' ability to enter homes only when invited? Vampires are formidable to say the least, but they cannot just waltz into a house and feed on the occupants. A very interesting fact is that any vampire will need to be explicitly invited inside a threshold and cannot enter without this. This is probably based on the idea that the threshold of a home acts as a magical and spiritual barrier, which protects the occupants from dangerous creatures. It's like a protective bubble surrounding a house, the strength of which often depends on the bond among the family members or occupants. So any vampire, irrespective of strength or ability, needs to be invited inside. If you think about it, it sort of acts as a choice given to humans. Vampires often use their charms and abilities to coax their prey into inviting them inside, and giving in means forfeiting their lives. Do vampires have obsessive or compulsive behaviors? Despite their powers, vampires are not free from quirks. One of the most offbeat of these is arithmomania, the obsessive need to count. This could be anything, as long as it can be counted. In many cultures, people throw lots of small seeds around graves, believing if vampires rise from there, they will be too occupied and obsessed with counting all the seeds and not actually do any harm. This is commonly described as a trait every vampire shares, so it is kind of vampire OCD. Other than this, blood is something they obviously obsess over. Blood is not just their sustenance, but also has a strange pull over them, which can often result in obsessive behaviors like stalking their victims. Are vampires capable of extraordinary intelligence or precognition? We mentioned precognition as a special ability vampires possess, sort of like a sixth sense, but infinitely more enhanced and accurate. Other than that, vampires are often portrayed as extremely intelligent creatures. It is unlikely that the intelligence is directly linked to vampirism. What appears more probable is that, due to their immortality, vampires basically have all the time in the world to learn about things. They witness the rise and fall of civilizations, they live through centuries, and act as spectators to the evolution of the world as a whole. This gives them the gift of knowledge that is often lost in the sands of time. Vampires retain everything in their memories, and this is the true power of immortality. Marvelous verdict. Being a vampire is a nifty little lifestyle, especially for homebodies. If you do not like going out, you're protected from the sun, and you have skills at your disposal to manipulate people and drink their blood. You have all the time in the world to read your favorite books without worrying about getting old or catching diseases. You also have kick-ass fighting skills that can come into use at any time, for your defense or for that of others. Maybe that's why we're so obsessed with these supernatural creatures. Immortality is something people chase after under different names. Most recently, it's called biohacking. Mortality does not allow the luxury of time, so maybe it's not eternal youth that people are really after. It's the idea of infinity that they wish to chase. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one, be safe, and thanks everyone.